Are busy making them
Hale, Mojo Monday. I didn't even think about it until we got that song playing, that it actually is a good theme song to our message today. How are you? 2023 is here. Tell me about the year.
So far, so good, man. We're still standing. We're fighting the good fight. What can I say?
Yeah, so it's so early in the year. We're still talking themes. What's the theme of our call today?
It's the year to fail, 2023.
Okay.
Choice, not chance.
So we like the song Ty Verde's A-OK, and I think it's really fitting to be a kickoff song to our Mojo Mondays, because truth is failure's okay, right? Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, failure is okay, but there's a psychology of failure that often limits us from trying new things. We get caught in ruts. We're creatures of habit. And so I think this is the year to take a deep breath, step back, and make sure your habits are serving you at the highest possible level.
100%. And as we were prepping for this call, we were talking about a bunch of different things, but we started talking about, like, do some people, are they scared of failing, or are they nervous about putting themselves in a position where they potentially could fail? And how does that translate into who they are? And what we really kind of summarized is there's forces that sometimes program us around failure. And there's external forces and internal forces that we deal with that cause us to either not put us in a risk situation, but maybe lead us down a path of risk aversion. How would you put some words to what I'm explaining here?
So this time of year, I mean, it's the beginning of the year. Historically, people think New Year's resolutions and think change, but the reality is change requires a decision. And if you've historically made decisions for change and then that change didn't come about, I think the relevance in that conversation with yourself or with a mentor or with a coach is, why haven't I actually done the things I know I could do, should do, and want to do, but didn't? And so that, to your point, we kind of discussed the reality of the psychology of failure. And I don't know that it's failure and again, this is that personal conversation. Am I the creature of habit and these habits aren't serving me at the highest level? Doesn't mean they're wrong or bad. In fact, my belief is if your habits serve you well, don't get all stressed out about changing. Certainly develop and grow, because I think as human beings, we were created for growth. And my theme for the year, by the way, Brett, is to live like you're going to die tomorrow and learn like I'm going to live forever.
I love it. I love it.
So that goes back to learning requires experiential focus, and it probably requires doing things slightly differently, or intentionality improvement around the little things that add up into big things.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, and I'll butcher it, but the premise of the quote says, your dreams lie just outside your comfort zone. And in order to get out of your comfort zone, there's risk associated with that. You got to go do something that means you're either going to succeed or you're going to fail. But that's where your dreams lie. And in order to live a big life, in order to live a great life or a fulfilled life, you got to get on the bicycle knowing you might fall off and skin your knee. You got to go knock the door on a neighborhood lead generation activity, knowing there's a possibility somebody could slam the door in your face, right?
Yeah.
You got to ask the person you find attractive out on a date, knowing they may say no, right? Like, that's all the stuff in life that is not comfortable, but that makes our life really rich.
It does. And a question unasked is a question unanswered. And there could be an answer you're looking for that you simply have to ask. I had a coach for a while, Eric Saperston, and he made a big point out of the difference between very successful and moderately successful people is a willingness to ask for help. So maybe part of this journey towards failure, which really just means modifying behavior and taking some mild risk, is simply being more intentional about asking or encouraging or inviting people into your conversation that help create an environment where you're likely to fulfill your own promise to make that necessary change. And again, the problem with failure is most people think of it as terminal and big and, detrimental, where, I think in we talked about this. That's the external versus internal. The internal piece of it is the psychology of your own self-image and wanting to be perfect or not wanting to not be perfect, or, what's driving you that decision not to change. And then externally, if it's external and it's a social norm you're trying to meet, or you're trying to live up to the expectation of the outside world, it's another approach to, there's another approach to getting past that. And it could be changing your tribe. It could be modifying how you communicate your goals and making sure that external forces that are pushing you down or keeping you from that ultimate best aren't playing into your daily behavior and your decision making, and
Yeah.
doing those, again, small things that become big things.
Well, but let's break that down. And before we do, there's a couple quotes. One says, success is not final and failure is not fatal. But one of my favorites, John Wooden, said, failure isn't fatal, but failure to change may be. So I think we probably should spend a minute talking about those changes, right? You talk a lot about micro quitting and micro gains. I think you coined that phrase. But really it's creating a change. If you want to change your health habits, you have to make a change, right? And if you fail to change, it could be fatal. That sounds weird. We'll leave that there. But at the end of the day, you got to make these changes.
Yeah. And truthfully, it may not be fatal, but to me, fatal. So it goes back to how you define words and the words you use and choose and the energy they have. Fatal sounds life or death. Fatal could just mean not reaching your potential. Fatal could be not living into that self-image you really want to have for yourself. And it's holistic. We're not talking just making money or just creating, a business, elevated business. It could be simply your health. It could be your spiritual life. What one thing, and so you mentioned micro quitting. And I think the problem with most people is they don't wholesale quit. They don't just wake up and go, screw it, I don't care about anything. I'm doing nothing for the next 30 days. That who does that? But they wake up and default on the little things each day. It's like deferring and delaying an hour or two from the things that if you did right now, probably moves the needle in a positive way. Makes sense? And so the micro quit is deferring, delaying, and then the reality of most people as well is by the end of the day, you're exhausted, or you lack the focus you did early on, or the energy, and then you default to another day. And that's a recurring theme. And if that's your story, then you've got to rewire how you approach your day. And then there's micro gains, which is, every coin has two sides. The micro gain would be, hey, you know what? In fact, here's an example, Brett. This morning we had our call early, and I looked down at my watch and I had 16 minutes until we were going to launch this podcast. And I thought to myself, I've already got my notes. I'm prepped and ready in my mind, in my heart. And I could sit here and just drink my coffee and chill, or I could grab the leash and walk my dog and throw 1,000 steps onto my counter. And I chose the steps. I've got some momentum now. I've got a win, if you will, a check. 1,000 steps is that, but you and I both know 1,000 steps. That's what, quarter, not even half a mile, probably. I think it's 2,130 or something, depending on your stride. But it's 1,000 steps closer to my 10,000 step goal. And it'll be a lot easier when we're done and I click end and we hop up to go, I'm going to grab another 1,000. And like, momentum is your friend when it comes to change and success. That's what I want you to hear. Those are micro gains when stacked become quantum leaps in the end.
100%. It's those little things that create the momentum, that create the energy, that cause us to stay in our headspace moving towards this. And, I took some golf lessons thanks to you. And I think about my golf shots going, man, every one of them doesn't look that great, but at some point in time, the line starts looking better. Right. And it's just those little gains that cause you to put a whole round of golf together, or an entire life together, that you're really proud of. Right.
Exactly. And you're right. And the interesting thing about golf lessons, we both had them. And, by the way, that gift wasn't intended as a a slide of your game. But life's like that. We can always get better, and positive feedback. And the challenge is, if you were to take up golf and try to play golf tomorrow, the odds are you would resent the hell out of your inability to hit a ball straight with any repetition. And the golf lesson piece is like that muscle memory that comes from repetition.
Yeah.
And the challenge is, you don't know you've really figured something out, and it might be a month or 2 or 3, but if you keep planting seeds, you keep fertilizing and watering, one day this beautiful plant comes out of the ground, or crops that bear fruit, and you're like, wow. And it's that slowly, then suddenly. And the slowly part is boring. It's monotonous. It's not exciting or invigorating. But I promise you, your subconscious brain's listening and watching, and it feeds off potential and it feeds off progress. And it's all about living and knowing in your heart that, hey, small steps in the right direction one day lead to a journey and a life worth having.
100%. That just makes me think about the 10,000 hours, right? And another quote I found when we were prepping said, "I've not failed. I've only found 10,000 ways that won't work." Thomas Edison. And, the truth is maybe we should go find more ways that don't work, because the reality is we're going to stumble upon the ways that do. So if I've never used social media, maybe I need to go figure out 10 ways that social media doesn't work for me, and maybe I'll find a way that it does. Or if whatever it looks like, maybe I need to go find 10 activities to move towards my health goals, and find out that 9 of them I don't enjoy, but one I might enjoy that I had never tried. Right? It's putting yourself out there to go move towards success. And the faster you knock off the failures, actually, the faster you find your success.
100%, because we all have our own voicing, and what works for you may not work for me, but until I exercise that potential, I'll never truly know.
Yeah.
And the other thought I would bring to this conversation is be careful, because what didn't work 10 years ago might be voiced differently in your body, your experience, your network, where you are in life's different. And so just because it didn't work once doesn't mean it's a failed, endeavor permanently. So, just a thought, just be careful saying no to everything because you've gotten near it or touched it, but didn't work the first time. And
Sure.
you perfectly played into the mantra of the day, 2023 to year to fail. It doesn't mean falling on your face, but if you bounce off the ground, bump your butt and pop back up, that's okay. That's not terminal or fatal.
100%. And, riding a bicycle, or I actually rode a little skateboard when I was a younger guy, and you think about how many times you fall and skin yourself, or how many times you just you fail. That's part of the process.
It is.
And you see it early on as a child, but we resist it as an adult. And it's just like drawing. I used to be a great artist as a young kid, but I wouldn't raise my hand as an adult, because we think more as an adult, and it's the same thing.
100%.
Well, Rick, challenge us this week. It is 2023. We're 3 weeks into the year. It's the year of failure. Give me a challenge.
So if you're like me and you like to goal set categorically, where you try, you list all of the things that are important in life: friends, family, health, spiritual, what are the others? Business, financial. Pick one thing or two things and put them on your calendar, and then go just test it. Instead of a micro quit, let's swing at micro gains, small things that add up. And if it felt good and it worked, like my 1,000 steps before the call, go knock down another 1,000 and watch what the stacking principle or effect looks like. And so really it's the year to fail. I mean, if the things are uncertain, so if you're absolutely certain, stay the course. If you feel like there's an element of uncertainness, don't wait for the tide to completely drop before you start building your next life raft or boat.
There you go. Theme songs are coming, right?
Ain't no mountain high enough.
There
baby.
you go. Mojo Monday.
Mojo Monday, friends. Hope it's an amazing week for you.